Daniel Penney, the former Marine who stepped in to restrain the violent vagrant Jordan Neely, is now looking down the barrel of 15 years behind bars for manslaughter. He was arraigned last week, put in cuffs, and made to do a humiliating perp walk, though he turned himself in, though he's been cooperated through the whole process, though what he did was in the defense of others. But Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg doesn't care. He's not a guardian of the law. He's an activist installed in his position by George Soros. Nothing more, nothing less. He doesn't make moves based on law. He makes moves based on the mob. And once again, the mob wins. And Jordan Neely's family, well, they hope to turn his death into dollar signs.
No one on that train asked Jordan, what's wrong? How can I help you? He was choked to death instead. So for everybody saying, I've been on the train and I've been afraid before, and I can't tell you what I would have done in that situation, I'm going to tell you. Ask how you can help. Please. No one said, here you are, sir. Let me meet your need or help you in a situation or give a word of encouragement. So should Daniel Penney be charged with manslaughter? Absolutely. Because he acted with indifference. He didn't care about Jordan, he cared about himself.
Jordan Neely was a vagrant living on the streets. Where was his family then? Now they care? Convenient, that's real convenient. Neely has been struggling for years, has been mentally ill for years, and violent for years, and this time it caught up to him. Did he deserve to die? No. But are subway passengers and good and decent people supposed to give a mentally ill man spouting death threats the benefit of the doubt? Should Daniel Penney have sat his happy ass down and waited for Neely to punch an elderly woman again or kidnap a child again? If Bragg did his job, New York City residents wouldn't be put in this situation in the first place. But Bragg is sending a message loud and clear. Do not mess with his mayhem. Do not question the lawless hellhole he's created. Do not be bold and do not be brave. Let it happen. Let the country go to hell and let innocent people pay the price. These liberals want men to devolve into purse-holding cowards. They want you all emasculated and neutered because real men are the last remaining barrier these communists must eliminate in their quest to destroy everything around us. Well, Daniel Penney did something. He stood up, he acted. So I stand with Daniel Penney and every other man who has the fortitude and the character to protect and defend the vulnerable. In a world full of cowards, be a Daniel Penney.
White supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go.
You heard Joe. Our top terror threat isn't China or Russia or Iran or tens of thousands of unvetted illegals from all parts of the world rushing our border. It's white people. But he's not alone. California's Reparations Task Force has proposed cash payments as high as $1.2 million per black recipient to make up for slavery that never took place in California, which makes sense. But here's a tiny little plot twist. Old pandering, greasy Gavin Newsom has declined to endorse these payouts. Uh-oh, he's in a real tight spot now. He can either pander or bankrupt his entire state. What to do, what to do. Joining me now with his take as host of the Larry Elder Show, Larry Elder. Larry, I know you're still sticking it out in California, and I was just shocked to hear that Gavin is now not really supporting what his own reparations task force put forward. It seems like every month the payout gets a little bigger, but what is Gavin going to do?
And Tommy, since the LA Times is calling me the black face of white supremacy, I'm not even sure I qualify. But here's the deal. He had no blooming idea that this task force that he agreed to set up would raid the vault the way they have. $800 billion, $1.2 million for every black resident of California. That's 2.5 times the entire California state budget, which, by the way, is on a $20 to $30 billion deficit. And California is running a $1.5 trillion unfunded pension liability. The money is not there. He had no blooming idea they were going to go this far. And he wants to run for president. He knows he's on the wrong side of this issue. While the majority of blacks support reparations, only 18% of whites do. That's not a formula to become president, and he knows it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obvious. It sounded really good in 2020 to set up a reparations task force, when everybody was looting things in the name of George Floyd and justice. It sounded really good for Gavin Newsom to put this task force together. But then once they start announcing how high these payments are going to be, I think he's going to put himself in a tight spot. I think he'll back away from it. I think you're right. He's got aspirations for the presidency, I believe, in 2024. But just when you look at California, you mentioned for so many years now, when I lived in California, it was the same thing. Gavin Newsom would bark about the budget surplus and how his state was doing so well.
Right. And
now there is a budget deficit, and they really want to bankrupt the state in every imaginable way possible while taxing the hell out of residents like you. What's the future of California in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years?
Well, we've lost 500,000 people in the last 2.5, 3 years. People are leaving San Francisco. People are leaving Los Angeles, citing all sorts of things, crime, the high cost of living. The average price of a home here in California, Tommy, is 175% above the national average. And by the way, this reparation task force didn't just stop at the $800 billion in cash payments. They want to eliminate the SAT. They want to reinstate affirmative action, even though Californians voted twice against it, most recently in 2020. They want free health care. They want an apology for slavery. And as you pointed out, California wasn't even a slave state. The whole idea about reparations, to me, is the extraction of money from people who were never slave owners to be given to people who were never slaves. The whole thing is absurd. And look about the way they get around the fact that California was not a slave state by saying, well, it's not about slavery, it's about grievances, it's about redlining and overpopulation in prison and over-policing. Well, you want to play that game, look at the way California treated Chinese people. There were laws that prevented Chinese from competing in certain businesses in the Bay Area. There were laws, believe it or not, on the books that prevented Japanese Americans from purchasing farmland in California. Yet Japanese Americans look at their net household income average is higher than the average household income of the average white person. Chinese Americans have a higher household income than the average white person. How can that be? And the answer is hard work, strong families, and embracing education. That's the formula, not whining and claiming that somebody owes something to you that was not done to you by other people.
And then Joe Biden, of course, I think someone told him to make that speech. I think every time he makes a speech like that, they say, mention white supremacy, mention fascism, mention ultra megas. But when he's standing up there, a lot of us focused on Joe in that speech, but I was looking behind him, and the students he was speaking to were visibly laughing. And if I had been sitting there, obviously would be laughing. But does anybody take this seriously when he says white supremacy is really our biggest threat?
I hope not. Look at the numbers. There are around 21,000 homicides most recent year. Half of those were Black victims. Almost all of those were committed by other Black people. White people, when it comes to homicide, are actually underrepresented. When it comes to serial killing, defined as 2 or more killings interrupted by a cooling period, whites are underrepresented, Blacks are overrepresented. When it comes to mass shooting, same thing, whites are underrepresented, Blacks are overrepresented. When it comes to interracial, Black versus white homicides, and they're rare, but every year about 750, 500 whites are killed by Blacks. Only 250 Blacks are killed by whites, even though whites are, again, 62% of the population. And when you look at non-homicide, violent interracial acts between Blacks and whites, roughly, Tommy, about 400,000 each year. And I'm talking about homicide, attempted homicide, manslaughter, rape, robbery with a weapon, aggravated robbery. 85% of them are Black perpetrators and white victims, only 15% the other way around. So whites are committing less crime as a percentage of their population, and Blacks are committing more crime as a percentage of their population. Yet the threat is, oh my God, white supremacists. It is a lie, a complete and total lie, told in order to get Black people angry, so they pull that lever like lemmings to the Democratic Party, because at the top level, unless they get that 95% Black vote, they cannot win, and they know it.
Well, we're hoping that that's going to change and people will realize how much better off they were under Republican leadership. But I want to talk about Chicago as well, because I think this could very well be an election issue heading into 2024. Black residents in Chicago are very angry that illegal immigrants are now taking services and resources from underserved communities. Let's take a listen to these residents. They're pretty fired up.
All these resources that have not come to us, now you want to overly compensate for people who never lived here before, and we need to be taken care of first and foremost before anything else happens here.
Why would any leader put our black communities already riddled with crime at further risk by placing unvetted non-taxpayers steps away from our seniors, our children, and our homes we've worked so hard on our own to secure?
Larry, they make an excellent point here. I don't know if it's going to change the way that they vote, but I think as this illegal immigration crisis worsens and these individuals are going to these blue cities that are already underserved, do you think it's going to make a difference in the hearts and minds?
Well, that's why I'm running for president. That's why I'm asking people to go to elderforpresident.com, because I think I can make a difference. There was a study done by the Civil Rights Commission. The group most hurt by illegal aliens are black and brown people living in the inner city who have high school or less education, because most of the illegal aliens are unskilled. There would be about 1 million more black people who have jobs, but for illegal alien labor. And illegal alien labor puts downward pressure, Tommy, to the tune of almost $2,000 per year on the average salary of a black person living in the inner city. So they're the ones who are most harmed by illegal immigration. And the Democrats, of course, are doing this on purpose. And the people that they're harming are the ones that they purport to care about, i.e. black and brown people living in the inner city.
And these communities are already underserved. We talk about education alone. When you've got inner cities that already have packed classrooms, they already struggle to have resources for education and the tools that they need to succeed, and then you bring in all these students that are illegal immigrants that don't speak English and need to be accommodated by a teacher who is bilingual, I mean, then you're really rationing the education for these communities, not just in Chicago, but really in every major urban place. And it's not just black kids that are going to suffer, it's white kids, it's every kid that's going to suffer in underserved areas. Can you speak to that and help people understand what this is going to do, particularly when it comes to education?
Well, already before this happened, Tommy, you look at the national report card, 85% of black eighth graders, these are 13-year-olds, can neither read nor do math at grade level. And of course, the Democrats are opposed to school choice, which would dramatically improve that. We spend more money K through 12 than virtually any other industrialized country, with getting worse results. They lost a whole year of learning because of COVID, of math and reading, which is going to translate into earnings loss over their lifetime. And now you're throwing in a bunch of illegal aliens. You know, there was a study done years ago, Tommy, that looked at where public school teachers sent their own school-age kids. Nationwide, 10% of us send our kids to public school, 6% of black families. 49% of Philadelphia public school teachers with school-age kids put their own kids in private school. 39% of Chicago public school teachers put their own kids in private school. So the teachers who know the school system the best aren't putting their own kids in it. What does that tell you?
Yeah, that's horrifying. And it's only going to get worse. And it's from the same people who talk over and over again about education and supporting teachers. They support teachers' unions. That's the big difference. Larry, we always appreciate you. And give us your website again for folks to go check out your campaign.
Elderforpresident.com. I want to raise enough money to qualify for the first debate, which is in August in Milwaukee. Elderforpresident.com.
Thank you so much, Larry. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.